Welcome to The Perfect Balance, where this is the podcast where we discover your symptoms are not the problem, with your hosts, Eva Vennari, Dr. Heather Kneale, and Leslie Brown. Join us as we jump right into this episode. Welcome into The Perfect Balance. This is the podcast where we talk about your symptoms are not the problem. I am Eva Vennari, one of your hosts, and I'm founder of the Elevate Institute. I help reverse burnout.
My name is Heather Kneale, and I am founder and CEO of Global Nutritional Healing. We have certificate programs for mineral balancing.
I'm Leslie Brown, and creator of the Stress Relief System, where we focus on empowering high-achieving men to effectively manage stress so that they can sustain peak performance at work and at home.
Yeah. And today we're going to talk about Mercury, not the planet. Retrograde might play a part in all of this, but we're not talking about astrology today. This is about the metal Mercury and how common it is in our environment, and we'll talk about that, and then what it can do to you. We think oftentimes, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but I've heard this from clients. They say, oh, once you get Mercury, you can never get it out. Have you heard that?
Oh yeah, that's a common thought.
Yeah. So
the half-life of Mercury is, if you look it up, they pretty much talk about decades. So if you look that up and you've been exposed to Mercury, and it says it on numerous sites that it can be years to decades. And so, yes, that would make you think, I might have that for a long time.
Yeah, besides the fact that we have toxic metals and imbalances and whatever else mom is made of passed to us in the womb, and we're born imperfect, not perfect, and everybody goes, oh, I didn't know that. And Mercury is one of those things that gets passed from mother to child in the womb. How did I get all this Mercury? Look at mom's teeth.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So you're fighting that and the false belief system that you can't get rid of it. That's a tough thing when it's in your brain. Can't do it. Yeah, you can't. I actually got in an argument with my cousin over that. You can't get rid of that stuff. And I said, well, we do it every day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it would be really good to show an example of a before and after. I didn't even think to grab that, but I had it on my own test. Have you two had this on your retests too, to see the Mercury rise up as the body was getting rid of it?
Yeah, mine came out many years later on the program, though. My daughter showed it. She was not even 2 and only been breastfed, and she had pretty much probably 50 times the amount of Mercury. It was so high on her hair test. And she didn't eat food. So where did she get it from? You're looking at it right here. She got it from me, so, and I had tons of amalgams. I also worked in the medical field, and I've had a lot of, flu shots and things like that. So I'm sure, I know you have an option now to get it with, or, they use it as a preservative. So I'm sure I got it from just tons of, and then my mom, she might have got it from her too.
Well, did you have Mercury in your teeth? Sorry, Eva.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Is that was the thing to do, is to mix the metals with Mercury, and like part of it is just education. It's not making anybody evil. Mercury is really good at expanding and contracting with our temperature. So when we eat something that's cold, it contracts to contract with our enamel. And it's the same thing when we eat something hot. Our enamel then needs more space. And so the Mercury has to shift and change with our teeth. That's why it's in there. But as we chew, each bite we take over the time of our lifetime, 3 times a day, we're eating a meal and maybe gum and whatever else we're chewing at this, over the day. A little bit of that Mercury comes out of the amalgam filling, and now you have less and less. And so the filling starts to leak, and that's why history has to be replaced. So the leaking, where does it go? It goes down into our bodies.
Exactly. They crack, or they, over time they can crack, or it, like you were saying, and you're just swallowing that.
Yeah, and I had mine.
Go ahead.
When I had my silver Mercury amalgams removed, and they do a silver also because it's great at fighting the bacteria, is the thinking behind it, right? But they took it out. It was under a crown, and there was space, so it had shrunk over the years. And there was black all around the inside of the tooth and on the gum. So that would have been the staining. And the chunk of metal, the mercury silver amalgam just dropped out. It was in a chunk. And so the dentist also said that he thought that there were vapors that get released as it shrinks. So all that works into the system. And it was interesting. I can't do a direct cause and effect on this, but I believe it to be true. When they took out a silver amalgam on one of my molars, then on the left side of my mouth, but my left third or fourth toe got real fuzzy, almost like peeling skin from a sunburn or something. And that, whatever that toe was, in a reflexology sense, connects with the tooth. And people don't realize that each tooth has reflexology connections, just like in your hands, your feet, or your ears. I don't know if that's too much for this conversation, but it showed up. And so I told my dentist about it. He'd never heard that before. So it was pretty interesting.
They never have. And it's like we were talking before we pushed the record button. I had a dentist from the early age of, when the amalgams were getting put in all my teeth. And by the way, you get cavities if you're minerally out of balance, right? But as the as they were going in, you don't think about it. And then as an adult, you develop all of these chronic illnesses. And I told my dentist, I says, I don't want any of those types of fillings going additionally in my mouth, but I also don't want them in my own children. And he's like, oh, they're harmless. All of that is just hooey. It's just a bunch of, chatter from, the new age people. And I says, here's a book and here's my experience. And I'm sick as a result. I lost all my relationship with my dentist. I had to change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
False belief system again. And they just don't know. You spend so much time invested in one belief, and it's hard to break that and go, oh, let's consider the minerals and the impact of toxic metals. But it's a biggie. And fish, of course, is another big source of mercury. I've seen that with pescatarians, that their mercury is very high. And we don't expect to see it high on the charts in the beginning. We expect it to be suppressed so low that it doesn't quite yet show up on the charts, but they're just very high.
We were talking about a great conversation about where do we get the mercury from other than our mom. And I remember learning that tuna was very high in mercury. So every year I go to the Natural Products Expo and I'm walking down the aisles and I see it, American tuna, mercury free. We've tested all of our fish. And I stop and I look at that little sign and I see I didn't know he was the owner of the company. And I says, I tell all of my clients to avoid tuna. Tell me why I shouldn't. And he gave me the story about how if you look at the tunas that are out there on the market, you have to be really careful. Like we could name a couple, starfish for one. What's another one? That it's just all of these tunas they don't test, right? But he said it's the size of the tuna that matters. So the deeper down in the water, the larger the tuna, the more other fish they've eaten.
Right. They're higher on the food chain. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same thing with people as it is with fish. Why wouldn't it be? We all live on the same planet. So it's like some common sense gets into this and you're like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But the younger fish, they have selenium in it. That's the relationship of minerals that matter, that keep the toxic level at bay. But as soon as another fish eats it with its toxic load of mercury, the selenium only lasts a moment. Its nutrient goes in and out. But the mercury stays. It's forever with you. And so anyways, he said, we catch fish at the surface of the water with line catching. So you can read the tuna can label. Say if it's line caught or pole caught, it's a smaller fish, less mercury. Plus, if you turn over the can, you'll see the date that the fish was caught and then the number, like a QR code or something that you can go to the website and see what the mercury's level were for that fish. Great. So you can eat fish healthily, but you have to really be careful and do your research. Sourcing is everything.
Right. I think Vital Choice is another one that they test their sources. And, so, I mean, I've had people eat from that brand and I haven't seen them have problems. We get to see that on the hair test as a result. I have a quick story that I have a client, she's been with me about 10 years. She's in her 60s now. And a lot of her symptoms have gone away. And then all of a sudden she called me, it was about 4 months ago, and said that she started getting nervous. She started having sleep problems. She said some of her hair was starting to fall out. And the worst one, the one that she was really upset about, is that she had mood swings because she had a new boyfriend. She goes, we've been together 3 months. And she goes, or was almost 4. And she said, and I really want to get this fixed. So I said, let's send in a retest. Maybe something is going on. So we got a retest, and her mercury was astronomical. And I've never seen that on her. And I thought, well, maybe this is a release. So we got on the phone and I said, what's going on? Have you changed how you're eating? She goes, oh, my boyfriend is a chef and he is cooking fish 3 times a week for me. I went, ah. So right there, she stopped eating the fish, and she felt like within about a week, some of those things already started to dissipate. So she was just getting this continual exposure from fish. And like Eva's saying, it's not easy. You have to know where the source is. Otherwise, you don't know what you're eating. You're getting that methyl mercury, and it's getting into your body, and it goes to the brain, to the kidneys, and other places in the body, the thyroid.
Then it begs the question, how does it get in the water in the first place?
Well, I was just going to go to that. Do you have it?
Well, I had 2 things. Yeah,
Okay.
one was, sorry, can you hear that in the background?
No.
Oh, good, thanks. Okay. Anyway, one, of course, would be toxic metal dumps that happens out of chemical plants. But the other one, this one grossed me out. I read it and they said when they put corpses, when they bury people, that the water can get to the mercury amalgam in their teeth and leach out into the water. I mean, found into the water and stuff. So those are the 2 that I'd heard about. Eva, you want to add something else?
Well, I want to debunk that one. Have you ever seen somebody get buried?
Well, we're talking about the planet, though. We're not.
No, I have not. I have not seen. I mean, I've seen people in caskets get buried, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Give me more information here.
So at these cemeteries, they're digging the hole 6 feet under, right? And then they put a casing of cement that holds the casket, which holds the body underneath the mattress. So like there's no way the water can get in to leach out, at least not where anybody is burying people in that way.
Right.
I'm not ready to debunk it though, because worldwide they don't have the same practices, and we're talking about water we share with the planet.
And this is it. So the body, just like with the planet, as above, so below, our lovely Hermetic laws, it goes through cycles just like anything else. And I'm a student of science. I love earth core sciences and water, ice core sciences. And I keep tabs on the headlines, and not that I'm out there, in the Antarctic and digging out, the cores, but I read and I watch what comes up. And they had a special talking about the cycle of mercury in our oceans. And this is just a typical cycle. It comes around every so many years. We have a large amount of mercury in the ocean water. And so whoever and whatever is in it, including, the boats, if you have somebody who's always at the ocean and they're going to their boating and they're handling the lines that have been in the water, you're getting mercury toxicity from that line. But any shellfish and large body fish, they've been there for a while, swordfish, tuna, anything that's, the larger animals, they're going to have a large load of mercury, because it's right now a cycle on the planet. It's not permanent, and it's nothing that we did for once.
Right.
It's not.
And see, I've heard a little different too, a difference, from just reading, and they talk about how, well, like the smoking tooth, you've seen that so mercury can be in a gas and it can move. So one of the sources is like when we burn coal, some places use it for, for energy. So we've got coal, and I'm sure there's other places too that mercury can, volcanoes, that's not something that we caused, just like you were saying, you did that. No, anyways. Stop that. So it ends up in our atmosphere. So what does it do if it moves in the air? So what if it's in our air and it ends up in our clouds, right? And then it ends up over our water, bodies of water. So we have rivers, we have oceans, lakes. And so then it ends up as mercury. It drops droplets into those bodies of water. And then from the water, I believe I read that it was mainly like microbes in the aquatic that turn it into this methyl mercury, a form that is very toxic, especially for humans. So I'm sure there's more to this story, but you know, these are all the things that we have collected.
There's
Yeah,
so
we do.
much. Yeah.
I was going to add on the shellfish too, that those are often used. People, I used to love lobster and shrimp and the oysters and clams and make, Alfredo. Oh my gosh. But those shellfish are often used to clean up bodies of water, contaminated and toxic bodies of water, and they can do it in short order. So that's something else to keep in mind. Even if you enjoy those every once in a great, great, great while, it's not a great food staple because that mercury is in there in such a concentrated amount by design of the creatures themselves. So
Bottom feeders, that's what they call them.
yeah,
Yeah.
they literally, because they are, right? They're
Mhm.
cleaning up all that stuff.
Yeah, I can tell when somebody's decided to, go on a sushi kick on a retest. I'm like, oh, your mercury's up. I'm looking at everything else. Nothing else is dumping out. There's dumping out like the body's natural process of getting rid of a toxic metal. We can measure it from a previous test, right? And so if there's any time you have a toxic metal that's at least double the amount of a previous test, it's what we call dumping. This isn't a dump. This is like way, there's nothing else dumping. What are you eating? More fish? What are you having? Got a new
Exactly.
How was that sushi week? Yeah.
I know. Yeah, you
Time
can
to stop.
yeah. Even after just one or two meals of having a shrimp, or something else that is just, I used to have shrimp all the time and I loved it. But all right, well, what other forms? We have seeds, vegetables treated with mercurial fungicides. Well, that's something that wow.
Yep. Makeup. It's in makeup. It's in different mascara. So that they're in makeup. What
Hair
else?
products,
What was that?
hair coloring products.
Yep. Yep. Swimming pools. This, all for the same reason of the seeds, to treat them.
You got felt. I didn't know it was in felt. Oh, sure, the Mad Hatter. Duh.
Yeah. That's right. That story.
Yeah. So they say that with a, I don't know. That was an old saying. My parents are much older than they should be for my age, but I grew up with knowing about the Mad Hatter, and it's like, is that real? Absolutely. Why? Because felt contains mercury, and the people who used to make hats, the hatters, they would end up mad.
Right.
It's not because of customer service. It's because
we're talking mercury toxicity.
They're using it in the bands, right? Again, too, it was again to stop any fungal growth or whatever gross stuff would grow on hats when people were wearing them all the time. You don't want to wash them. That'll be part of it. But dentists also have a very high suicide rate, and that's attributed to the silver mercury amalgams, or has been, according to what I'd read too, that it just works on them. They're just around that
wow.
healing vapors, and it works on the nervous system, and it's very agitating, and like you said, depressive mood swings, and people think they're not coping well with life when in reality their body's just in a toxic state, and there is help for that, whether they've been, well, anyway, we hope to educate them in that way here. There is hope for that.
Yeah. Well, it's a matter of ruling out what it could be, right? And this, the more you know, the more you have an ability to be your own detective. And that's, well, a few other things. There's floor waxes, adhesives. Jesus, that makes me want to go through my closet. Fabric softener is another one. Manufacturer of papers. So if you work in a paper plant, and that's a very icky smell in the whole city, I understand. If you live in a city where they manufacture paper, it has a weird scent to it. Yeah, the production of chlorine, just like you talked about the pools. It's in pools. So
swimming pool. Yeah.
What are we looking for in the list of ingredients on our products that would alert us? Because it's not gonna list mercury like it does so nicely on the vaccine.
Yeah,
case.
I think it says I've seen on some it'll say thermosyl cell or something like that.
Okay.
So it's THIRMEROSAL. That's what it I might be saying it incorrectly, but I think it's like thimerosal or something like that. Thimerosal is how you say it.
Okay.
That's one. And but you know, they do change they cut up the names, or they add other things in front of it and behind it, just like aluminum. You know, you'll see alum, alum, or something that you think is not aluminum, but it is. And it's the same thing with mercury. You'll see something in there that'll have some of the letters, but then they add all these little things on the, you know, front and back of it that you don't think it is mercury, and it is. Just look up your products. I know it's kind of a hassle, but you look up your products and start looking up the words that you don't know what they are.
Yeah. And I do know that if you're wearing any sort of makeup or product that is meant to help you look better, nail polish, anything that you put on your face, anything you put on your hair, in the States, they're not as, you know, stringent in the other parts of the world. So if you have products that are made in the United States, look for they have the 10,000 free from type products. And then they have, like, for the nail products, they have the 10 free. And so you can get stuff that is healthier for you.
Right.
And they're not necessarily more expensive anymore because people like me have been buying them for years, bringing the cost down. You're welcome.
Thank you. Maybe I'll do it, because I have no, you know, I can't even remember the last time I had nail color, you know?
Yeah, there's all kinds of them out there. It's under what's called 10 free, the 10 free products. Not that they are free to buy, it's that they're free from
Right.
those
Cops are
chemicals.
free. Yeah, they're paying
Yeah.
attention to it. You know, I think that's a really important point, because when we talk about this, people, it's like pretty soon it's like you just can't eat anything, you can't do anything. And that's not what we're trying to do here. We're really trying to build awareness, because as these levels of chemicals that have been used in products or things we didn't know existed on the planet, we're seeing the results of what's the negative impact on the body. And we just try and equip you with a way of thinking so that you can make choices that support your body's ability to heal itself, as opposed to things that tear the body down and are the hotbed for disease. So
Yep.
there are good options out there now, really important ones too. And you can get different fillings in your teeth if you have them. We've seen on the mineral balancing program, actually some cavities, like cavitation, heal itself when the minerals are in balance. So there are just a lot of different options out there people aren't aware of just yet.
Right. And awareness is key. How about
Yeah.
symptoms? Did we talk about symptoms?
I was just headed there. So I pulled up the list of how mercury affects our health, and you've got energy, of course. So mercury compounds inhibit all kinds of stuff, impairs the energy production of all body cells. Let's repeat that. It inhibits and impairs the energy production in all body cells. It goes your mitochondria.
Right. And think about when you're getting rid of it too. I don't know if you remember how you felt, but it is it's I think one of the hardest metals. Even though we do get rid of it, I think it can be very hard to get rid of. You know, I mean, as far as feeling, you know, tired.
Yeah, I can't, it's difficult. And then there's the nervous system. And this one's a little bit longer. Degeneration of nerve fibers occurs, particularly the peripheral sensory nerve fibers. What does that mean? Periphery sensory nerve fibers.
Peripheral. So that I'm thinking like hand tingling, you know, the sensation when your hands are tingly, or, you know, something like that. Okay. So numbness, tingling, that could be mercury, where some people think they just assume it's circulation or an injury. It could be actually mercury.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interrupted sleep.
Oh yeah, sleep is an issue.
It agitates the nervous system. People don't think about that, and then they might end up taking a medication that has more mercury in it and not realize it. It's like, oh no.
Look, research everything. Just because it's been prescribed doesn't mean it is safe.
Right.
Motor disturbances results in the changes in gait, so your ability to walk properly. If that changes all of a sudden, if you have muscle weakness, if you're falling suddenly, if you have slurred speech, this sounds a lot like having a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
in your hands, that means you have quite a bit of mercury, because those symptoms are more from a more extreme, like the lady I just was talking about. She didn't get, hers was high, but it wasn't like she started getting those kinds of major symptoms. She didn't start shaking, excuse me, or having tremors or anything like that. Those are later signs.
Okay. All right. Well, still,
Yeah.
if you're
No.
used to ignoring your body's symptoms, now is a good time to pay attention when it's just simply headaches, rashes, emotional disturbances, can't sleep. That's when you want to pay attention. Let's see. Thyroid, pituitary
Yep.
gland.
That's big. Thyroid's big.
That's
Yeah.
what accumulates in the thyroid. That's where, yeah.
How many people have hypothyroidism?
Oh, I get about 90% of my clients.
You too,
Yeah.
Leslie.
Yes.
Yeah. And they all say, oh, but I'm fixed because I'm taking my Synthroid or whatever it is the doctor has them on. I'm like, honey, if you stop taking that, you will still have the problem. Yes.
They want to work towards healing it. Yeah. By
Yeah.
getting, with your doctor and with us with mineral balancing. Definitely.
When I was working specifically on my thyroid, I was really trying to pay attention to that. And I started losing hair. And I have a real thick head of hair, but it's very unusual to lose your hair when you're improving your thyroid, right? Because you think you improve your thyroid and all that's going to go great. And then I had all this new growth. Well, a friend of mine, and I came back strong, but a friend of mine who used to work with pets, dogs and cats in particular, they said when they worked on their thyroid, what happened was the less healthy hair would fall out and the new growth would come back thicker, lusher, more shiny, and their coats would improve tremendously. So I took my lead from the dogs and cats there and said, all right, I'm in good company. But ever since I personally experienced that, it makes a difference when you're talking to your clients and you've lived through this and you're going, oh yeah, you're okay.
Yeah.
You're okay. It's not getting worse, it's getting better, but this is what it looks like in the short term.
Yeah, it's a little bit
Exactly.
difficult as a person who is, if you're especially as a woman, you're losing, or even a man too. I guess that's why a lot of people get the plugs and replace their hair. But it's like if you know that this is a cycle, and the normal cycle is like you're gonna lose that hair that is unhealthy for you, or rather an expression of you're getting rid of something that it was unhealthy for you, then the new growth is going to come in behind it. If you can hang on to that the experience, and that's the whole purpose that we're here for. We're here to lean on, as practitioners, is you got to ask questions and keep in contact with your practitioner, because if you think you're losing your hair because you're getting worse and you just simply misread your own symptoms, you're kind of losing the whole point of the program. We keep talking about the program, it's mineral balance work. So let's see, it can accumulate in the kidneys and it can cause kidney damage, and that is reversible. Doctors will tell you it's not. Yeah. So those are all the places where it can show up in the health. But as far as symptoms, there's a laundry list.
There is. Anxiety, irritability, mood swings, rashes, headaches. I mean, you can go on and on.
Well, we mentioned several of them: adrenal gland dysfunction, anorexia, birth defects, blushing. We mentioned brain damage, depression, dermatitis, disencouragement,
Skin.
losing hope, that discouragement, dizziness, which can be a cause of many things, but I think that's related to the adrenal, right? So if this is attacking the adrenals, then you're going to have problems with dizziness.
Sure.
Yeah. Fatigue, we mentioned. Hearing loss, we haven't mentioned that one. What?
No. No. And we have so many people with hearing problems. So it's really nice when you can get them on the program and have their hearing improve.
Hyperactivity, immune system dysfunction. We mentioned insomnia, kidney damage as well. Loss of self-control. Wow, that's going to be the nervous system, right? And then you have memory loss. Again, who are you? Didn't I just meet you? You just said your name 5 seconds ago, but I don't remember what you said. Migraine, headaches, mood swings, nervousness, pain in the limbs, rashes, skin. Everybody who's watching this is going to go, I have all those things, I'm in trouble. And we can help you. Salivation. So if you have a lot of excess saliva and you're not eating anything, rashes we mentioned. Let's see, schizophrenia. You can have schizophrenic break as a result. Thyroid dysfunction we mentioned. Tremors, vision loss, and weakness in the muscles. So I think we've covered everything.
Yes.
I think that's an important repositioning too, because a lot of times people get rashes and they think it's a topical issue. when in
Yeah.
reality, it's your body trying desperately, right, to get rid of it. And then the other is, I mean, I wonder how many bazillion dollars are spent in therapy and on antidepressants to try and get their moods and moods level so you can be sane at work or when you're conversing, not want to go home and yell or beat somebody on the side of the road because you just had a bad day and you can't control yourself, or countless hours of therapy, when in reality, I'd had a therapist tell me one time, said, if you don't find something within 3 to 4 therapy sessions, if you don't see improvements, then you need to look for a deeper organic reason, and a very clear organic reason that we see frequently is mercury toxicity, metal toxicities in general, but mercury is a biggie. And that's just a rereading or a reframing of symptoms that people experience, that we all experience, that never had a framework to put it within that would make sense and that we could manage and get well from.
Well, and this is a really good jumping off point, is like, well, we never had to worry about these things before. My grandparents weren't like this. My parents aren't nearly as bad. What's going on now? And it's the degradation of our food quality. Time. And of course, we're putting in more of our chemicals. The chemical revolution didn't happen until 1950.
Yeah, it's relatively new.
Yeah.
But an impact on this entire generation, and of course children also, as we said, because it gets passed on in utero.
Yeah.
Yep. We have a lot of things that have harmed us, but there's things we can do to improve it. So it's not a lost cause. Know that.
Oh, this is a message of hope. Yeah, no matter how I feel right now, this is a message.
Right.
Oh,
yeah, because you hear everything. It's just like, oh, we've got, electromagnetic frequencies. We've got genetically modified foods. How many chemicals new? Somebody told me there was how many new chemicals last year. I'm just like, by the time I got done talking to him, I was like,
depressed.
I think I'm going to curl up in a little ball and just start crying.
Hide out from the world. Oh, I know.
Yeah, and we have the ability to laugh because we know how to fortify the body. We know how to get it back in order. This is not a guesswork game. This is something
Not at all.
easy as following your favorite, recipe from your grandmother. It does not have to be a difficult thing. So I think that's about that. We're wrapping up at about a half hour. Any last words?
I just wanted to add that the thing that we do, which we've said before, but we do hair tissue mineral analysis, which holds 3 months worth of mineral and toxic metal data. So that's where we gather our information. It is very specific, mathematically precise. It's what's going on in your body at that time, not a general program for everybody, but to handle what's going on in your body. I wanted to add that. So that's how we know.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. We are definitely not guessing, and we have experience, which is going to be our next show. We're going to talk about our stories, our personal stories, what we've come in contact with, and how we lived through it, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
That's right. And it's big. It's a big light.
Right. So we're wrapping it up. This has been The Perfect Balance, where we've discussed your symptoms are not the problem, and it's not anything. It's just the opposite. Anyways, I'm Eva Vennari, one of your hosts, and we'll see you next time. But go ahead.
I'm Heather Kneale with Global Nutritional Healing, and we offer mineral balancing programs, certificates.
And Leslie Brown, CEO and founder of the Mineral Balancing Group.